Hello, everyone, and welcome from the Career and Academic Resource Center at Harvard Extension School. I'm very excited to be one of the first people you're probably going to hear from as you begin your journey with us. This video will include information and tips that any student can benefit from, but it's designed specifically for those of you who are about to begin your very first course at Harvard Extension School. This is going to hopefully help you have a successful semester and to also show you what resources are available to you as a student. I want to start by having you think about how long it's been since you took your last course, whether it's been a few months or a few years or more, and whether this is your very first online course ever. Welcome back or welcome. So the purpose of our talk today is to think about both things that you have within yourself to help you succeed as you begin this next step in your education, and also resources available from us, from the faculty and from the administration and staff here at the Harvard Extension School and in the Harvard community. The first thing I want to acknowledge is being a part-time adult learner is different from being a traditional college student. Some of you may be taking just a single course with us, but many of you are going to be pursuing or are pursuing your bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a graduate certificate. A traditional age college student usually goes straight from high school to college or from college to grad school. And many of our students have spent years or decades since their last class, and that's part of why we're doing this today. We know that that transition can be a tricky one. Traditional students take most of their classes in a physical classroom. They come to where the university is. They live on campus or close by. But for those of you who are joining us here at Harvard Extension School, you're going to be taking your classes in a variety of ways. Some of you are going to be in a classroom, but many of you will take your courses online. And that may either be a synchronous or an asynchronous online course. In a traditional academic environment, your classmates are generally demographically somewhat similar to you, similar ages, for example, whereas in the Extension School, you're going to find your classmates to be of many different ages. You may be in a Zoom class with students from multiple continents. Traditional students are generally full-time taking courses, and that's their main job, whereas for most of our students, they're part-time. Most of our students are doing something else at the same time that they're taking courses with us. They're working a full-time job, they're a business owner, they're a parent, or they have other commitments, and that means they're going to be bringing more interesting material to classroom discussions. So first of all, congratulations, welcome. Now you are a Harvard Extension student. What does that mean? Well, it means that you're going to have access to outstanding faculty. It means you're going to have some incredibly smart and hardworking classmates. Being a Harvard Extension student means you're going to have access to some of the best libraries in the world, both online and in person. And it also means that because this is Harvard, the workload is high and the expectations are high as well. But it also means that there's a lot of support available to you. So how can you be a successful student at Harvard Extension School? Well, the first thing I want to talk about is our instructors and office hours. Office hours are a time or times every week that instructors have designated and set aside for being available to students one-on-one. That may mean coming physically to their office. That means for many of them holding office hours on Zoom, because many of our instructors are also located outside the Boston area. You may also have section meetings for some of your courses. This is typically in larger courses, but not always. In some classes, these section meetings are optional, and in others, they're required. Part of your academic work for part of your grade. Sections are a chance to sit with either your faculty member or one of their teaching assistants and to ask and answer questions, work through problem sets, get additional information. It's something helpful and important. It's also important to communicate with your instructor and their teaching staff outside of class. If you get an exam back or an assignment and you're not sure you understand the feedback or the grade you received, you can email your TA or the instructor to ask. If you have a question about a reading or an assignment before it's due, you can reach out and ask. So you want to make sure you communicate with your instructors and TAs outside of class. Now, this isn't to say you want to be emailing them each and every week to ask questions that have already been covered during class or to question grades or every piece of feedback that you get. But it's important to develop a good working relationship with your instructor and your TA or TAs, and they are there to help when needed. Another resource that's important and available to you is the Writing Center at Harvard Extension School. You can request a certain number of appointments with the Writing Center tutors each semester. There is a maximum. The tutors won't be able to write your paper for you or tell you what to write or how to write it, but they can help you if you're having trouble with elements of writing in your Extension School course-related assignments. Depending on what class you're taking, the writing expectations can be a little different. Creative writing is different than expository writing. Writing in the sciences is different than literature. So when you're working with a Writing Center tutor, you want to bring a draft of your paper and whatever instructions you have for the assignment. And we also have the Accessibility Services Office. The Accessibility Services Office, or ASO, offers a variety of accommodations and services to students. One of the biggest issues across the board for our returning adult learners is certainly time management. This probably won't be a surprise to you, and maybe you're pretty good at managing your time. But we all have only 24 hours in a day, and we're all facing a balancing act in terms of how we prioritize that time, whether it's between different courses you're taking and or the different parts of your life. As I mentioned earlier, our students are full-time workers. They're business owners, spouses and partners, parents, taking care of elders. You might be in one or more of these categories at the same time or in different categories during your time at Harvard Extension School. It's a struggle sometimes to juggle the different parts of our lives. And now that you're adding a course or courses into the mix, it might be even more complicated, and you might be wondering just how you're going to juggle all of that. One of the first questions students often ask is, how many courses should I take? And the best answer to give is, it depends. And if you're a new student who's going to be interested in applying to one of our degree programs, you might also be in conversation with one of our Office of Pre-Degree Advising and Admissions Advisors. So they can certainly tell you a little bit more about this and share their experience and input with you as you are in the run-up to applying to a degree program. Some of our candidates must be enrolled either half-time or more than half-time based on financial aid or other considerations. Maybe you're taking a leave of absence from your job, or maybe you're getting some kind of tuition assistance and your loans will come due if you're not enrolled in a certain number of credit hours. These are all factors to consider. Another thing to think about is you and your own learning style. How quickly do you read? There's a lot of reading for some of your classes. How quickly do you work? Are you someone who likes to deep dive into one thing at a time? Or do you get easily bored? Do you need to be finished by a specific date? That's also something to keep in mind. And what do I mean by that? Well, sometimes there's a reason why you might have a deadline for when you need to complete or want to complete your studies. Do you have a specific end date? For example, if you know that you're going to be starting a family at a certain time, you may have a sort of internal timeline by which you need to get all of your work done or most of your work done. If that's the case, you're going to want to plot out your timetable, your academic timetable, with that in mind. Some of you are working full-time and sticking a toe in the water, taking a course. Some of you are taking more than one course at a time. But let's say you're working full-time. If you're in a job where you know that every other week you're traveling, then you need to take that into account when you're enrolling in your courses. If you know that you have a huge work deadline coming up in 2 months, this might not be the best semester to take a second course. If you're working full-time and also you're a parent taking care of young children or taking care of elders or parents, you need to take that into account. And any of these things can change at a given time, but only you know how you're going to carve out the time to not only attend class, but to also attend to all of your coursework, the readings, the writing assignments, the problem sets, the sections, the Canvas discussion boards. So you need to think about your pre-existing commitments and obligations in terms of how many courses you can do, knowing that each course is a lot of work. And how are you going to get it all done? This is where I really want to talk about the course syllabus. The syllabus is generally accessible for each class in the course search calendar on the Harvard Extension School website. Sometimes they're available closer to the start date of the course and sometimes earlier. You can see on the course description a link to access the syllabus once it's available. And when you do, you can see the full week-by-week breakdown of the class, the number of readings you'll have to do each week, sometimes as detailed as the number of pages that you will be reading on a weekly basis, the assignments and the essays and the papers due and when they're due, which is very important. This is all helpful to know. If you're looking at the syllabus for a fall course, for example, and see that the longest readings and biggest assignments are due in November, and you have some heavy job-related stuff or travel coming at that time, you can use the opportunity, knowing this in advance, to maybe try to adjust your work schedule or commitments. Or if you know that you can't do that, you can decide that this term you're going to be unable to take that particular course. Either way, you are prepared and you know what to expect before you are a student in the course and the tuition refund deadline has passed. So how are you going to figure out how you're going to do your coursework? You may know that your class, you can watch the lecture, the videos of the lecture anytime for asynchronous courses. But you also know that you're going to have several term papers to write and you're going to have several exams. Some instructors will accept late work, most will not. If the syllabus says late work will not be accepted, you will get a 0 for work that's not submitted on time. That means even something submitted 30 minutes past the deadline on Canvas will get you a 0. So if you have a real emergency, a medical emergency, talk to your instructor, send an email. Each instructor has a different policy. In specific cases, you can submit an appeal for an extension through our academic services office, but those are accepted on a case-by-case basis, and you're not guaranteed that the answer you receive will be a yes. So this might sound like a lot. I've got to figure out how I'm going to do this all. The work is going to be hard. How am I going to be able to take all of this on? I'm a new student. I don't know if I can do this. Well, the first thing I want to tell you is that self-care is important. It's part of being a good student. It means figuring out as you're making the schedule of when you are going to study and when you're going to work, and how you're going to take care of yourself, when you're going to sleep, how much you're going to sleep. You can cut back on sleep a little bit right before one big deadline, let's say, or an exam, but if you're doing that week in and week out, and that's your plan for how you're going to get through the semester, your brain is probably not going to work its best. Exercise, thinking about that, maybe you need to make regular exercise part of your routine if you can. I'm not talking about endurance competitions, I'm talking about figuring out what you like to do and making sure you get outside a little bit each day. I mentioned the Writing Center as a resource a little earlier, and I also wanted to mention the Math Questions Center, which is available 2 evenings a week to provide some additional support for math-related questions or coursework. Now, once you're a registered student in a course or courses, you will be receiving email notifications about these resources and others. And I also want to talk about the Career and Academic Resource Center, which is the group that I am a part of. This webinar, this recording, is part of the Career and Academic Resource Center's Academic Success webinar series. We have, to begin with, 2 outstanding research-based learning and study skills assessments available for you to take anytime on the Career and Academic Resource Center website, or CARC, the CARC website. Those can help you learn more about what study approaches might work best for you. We also have a rich collection of archived and live upcoming webinars on a range of subjects, and they're presented by subject matter experts, faculty, special guests, consultants. These range from webinars that really dig deep into positive psychology and goal setting and how to manage your time, to how to write a literature review, citing and referencing overviews, refreshers on the foundations of statistics, how to structure argument-driven essays, how to source and cite your material for academic integrity, grammar and punctuation for professionals and adult learners, and a lot more, not to mention a suite of webinars on career-related topics. These have all been designed specifically for you, for the Harvard Extension student, with the singular purpose of helping you navigate your courses and succeed in your assignments. I really do hope you'll take the time to view these either live or on demand whenever you want once you're a student. Finally, I know you are very busy. I know that you're studying and going to work and caring for your family and doing your schoolwork, but don't neglect to care for yourself and your brain, because that is part of being a good student. And I think students who do this have a better experience overall and are more likely to do well academically. So get involved, make connections with other students when you can. I'm glad you're all here, and I hope each and every one of you has a wonderful semester and semesters ahead. Thank you very much, and welcome to Harvard Extension School.